fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Alright folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you, so make sure that you Go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with you. This week we're talking about the RNC in CLE. Glad you can join us. Got a great show for you here. Join us online at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. You can always check us out live Tuesdays 10 p.m. on Spreaker and at any of our rebroadcast outlets, including Red Nation Rising Radio, WJHC 107.5, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and a ton of other places. Glad you can join us. We got a great show lined up for you. Jason Beardsley, a gentleman who spoke at the RNC last night being the first night of RNC, will join us to talk about his RNC experiences and also his experiences on the battlefield, his advocacy for veterans, and a whole host of other issues. Or even might get a little inside baseball about conversations backstage at the RNC. But before we get to that, I have a confession to make. I have not been watching the Republican National Convention as much as other people have. I know this may come as a shock. I'm a wonk. I'm a political nerd. I love, parliamentary procedure and all this other stuff that's going on. But even without watching it, I probably know better than most what's going on. And it's one of those times where I hate to break it to you folks. There's a script, and the script is followed through, regardless of whatever you may be seeing on the floor. When you run a convention, that's your house. That's the Republicans' house. That's the GOP's house. And I'm sorry, the minds have been made up. Donald Trump is going to be the nominee from the day you walked in till the day you're going to walk out until the general election. I hate to break this to a lot of my never Trump friends, because they actually thought that there was going to be a fair process, that there was going to be a grassroots groundswell that was going to start in the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee was going to bring a change of rules to the General Committee, and if that didn't happen, the General Committee was going to rise up, and the General Committee was going to change the rules recommendations from the Rules Committee, and all this stuff that was a fantasy to begin with. It's time to either shape up or ship out, Republicans. You've had your time of dreaming about the candidate you wish you had. For many of you out there, your candidate lost. I'm one of you. My candidate lost many times over. I was a Rick Perry guy. I believe in Rick Perry to this day that he would be an amazing commander-in-chief. can't debate a lick, can't speak in front of large crowds, but the man is a proven commodity when it comes to results-oriented governance. I was a Rick Perry guy. In fact, I love that he was on stage. I love that Marcus Luttrell was on stage, and the close relationship that Governor Perry and him have. Love all that. But I didn't get my way there. Ted Cruz, another one of my guys after Rick Perry was the first one out. I think Ted Cruz is absolutely brilliant. I think Ted Cruz has the know-how and the political courage to do what needs to be done. But voters didn't agree with me. Voters chose Donald Trump. For better, for worse, whatever your opinion is about the man, he is now not a presumptive nominee, not a front runner. He is the nominee. And it's time to get behind the Republican nominee. All you Never Trump people, all of the people in the so-called grassroots out there to stop Donald Trump for whatever reason it may be. And listen, he's not the perfect candidate. We'll get into that in a second. But if you were out there thinking that something was going to happen at this convention, then you are an idealist of the highest order. And I salute your idealism. But now it's time to take your head out of the clouds and the sunshine and, lollipops and rainbows everywhere. And it's time to get to work. Because although you may think Donald Trump is bad, Hillary Clinton is much, much worse. We're talking about a guy that you may not want to have drinks with versus a woman who's a known liar, a woman who's a known national security threat, a woman who has been involved in more scandals than her scandal-ridden husband. It's time to choose between bad or worse. I don't think Donald Trump's that bad, by the way. I think Donald Trump is going to be the purging fire that politics needs. I think Donald Trump's going to pull no punches because he's not going to be the guy who's going to play nice in the sandbox with everybody. He's proven that through a generation of him building the Trump brand. He doesn't care if you like him or not. He thinks you're going to vote for him because he is the only real choice out there compared to Hillary Clinton. I tend to agree with that. But when it comes down to it, if you are a grassroots person, he's all you got left if you want to win in November. Now, if you want to be part of that purging fire of the GOP and just burn it all down, I can respect that. I can understand if you want to go with a Gary Johnson, or if you want to throw away your vote and vote for Gene Baradelli, which is Berardelli, by the way. You can do that. I have no problem with you doing that. It's your vote. You can do whatever you want with it. But if you want to stop Hillary Clinton, and I think that every Republican conservative, every stripe, wants to stop Hillary Clinton, then I think the only way to stop her now is to vote for Donald Trump. Listen, I understand the idea of holding your nose and going to the ballot box and voting for someone you halfway like. I've done it. I held my nose and I voted for John McCain. I held my nose and I voted for Mitt Romney because the alternative, as we have seen over the past 7-8 years, has been dreadful, has been irresponsibly governing this nation. So, I mean, the words I can use to describe the Obama administration and the Obama era in this nation is not going to be very nice and is not really friendly for radio. So I held my nose and I voted for John McCain. I didn't necessarily agree with everything John McCain stood for. I didn't necessarily agree with everything that Mitt Romney stood for. I thought that they were both decent human beings. I thought that they would be the best alternative for getting some of the agenda I wanted passed in government. The whole idea of you can either go down Niagara Falls and go down the winding river that leads to Niagara Falls 10 years from now. That's kind of how I felt about those two candidates. And now the tables are turned. A lot of those establishment types, they're feeling, they're feeling burnt, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean Bernie Sanders. They're feeling like I felt last election cycle. They're feeling like I felt 2 election cycles ago. That their guy doesn't represent them. But they're not playing nice like they expected us to, and us being grassroots conservatives who went for the big establishment guy. And with the tables being turned now, that they think that they're still driving the car. I'm sorry, guys, you're in the back seat for now this cycle. We're taking the wheel, trying something different. And by we, I'm not necessarily a Trump guy, but he's my nominee. And I'm going to make sure that Hillary Clinton loses in November. That's how I feel about it. By the way, hope you're enjoying the show so far. Like I said, Jason Beardsley coming on the show later on. Going to be talking about his business venture as well, the Underground Movement, which I'm going to tell you all about. It's phenomenal. I love this apparel company that Jason has started that mixes history with great-looking apparel. And we're going to be talking to him about his experiences at RNC and all that. But also I want to bring your attention to the fact that we have a chat room going on live during every broadcast Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Spreaker that you can go to at www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. Click on the Listen Live button, and you'll get right into the chat room. You create a little screen name. You can log in through your Facebook or your Twitters, and you can join us. And I'm looking at some of the comments in the chat right now, agreeing with me that Rick Perry was a solid guy, and that people still like him. How could you not like Rick Perry, by the way? Absolutely think that he is great. His wife Anita is a wonderful lady, and what they did for Marcus Luttrell and his brother, unbelievable. And you should really look up that story, folks. Another comment saying that he was a solid Cruz guy until he dropped. Then he went to Trump. Kasich was hanging in for the free food, and just another Dem wearing a Republican tag. And you kind of see the sour grapes there with a lot of people not attending this convention. John Kasich not attending the convention in his own state. What does that say for, first of all, his respect for the party? Because it is the Republican Party's convention. And secondly, what does it say for the will of the voters? That John Kasich doesn't care that a majority of voters, the most to ever turn out for a Republican primary cycle ever, went with Donald Trump and didn't go with him? What does that say, really? And the chat room just answered me. It says that they're big crybabies. Jeb ! Bush could be thrown in there as well, as the chat room says. But those guys that were calling big crybabies were the same people that were running the party and losing for the last 2 cycles. The definition of insanity, folks, is banging your head against the wall and expecting a different result. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a change. That's not what we have right now. Is actual change. Whether you believe it's change for the worse or change for the better, I'll respect your opinion. But this is what change looks like, folks, in the Republican Party. It's a very interesting election cycle, folks. It's going to get more interesting as we go along, because it's not really an election where favorability is going to come into play. There are staunch Trump supporters, and they're never going to change. There are staunch Hillary supporters, and they're never going to change. And then there's everybody in the middle who's going to be thinking who's bad and who's worse. I'm one of those guys that's thinking bad or worse. Trump's bad. Yeah, I get it. He's not a polished politician. His wife apparently lifts speeches from Michelle Obama. We'll get to that in a second. Ridiculousness there. And yeah, you know what? He's not one of my guys that I thought about when I was thinking about who I would want to back for my nominee for president. Initially, I was telling you guys over and over again, I wanted somebody with executive experience, and I wanted somebody who didn't have a career in Washington. And Donald Trump fulfills those 2 criteria for me. Is he also a little off the wall and not your conventional politician? Yes. And that appeals in a lot of ways. It also is unappealing in a lot of ways. There are bound to be mistakes along the way. There are bound to be flubs like we've seen. But the one thing I always respected about Donald Trump is that he has blazed his own trail. He is his own man. And he's doing it his way, much the way Frank Sinatra would want him to do it, in trying to become the next president of the United States. I know as an attorney, Donald Trump may not be the most small government guy out there, but I know that with him, I have the best chance of getting another conservative justice on the Supreme Court. I know with Hillary, there is no chance. Not even a snowball's chance in some really hot places. That's not going to happen. With Donald Trump, it may happen. Again, I'm not guaranteed anything in this life, but if I would be a betting man, the odds would be more likely that I would get a conservative justice on the Supreme Court from Donald Trump than I would from Hillary Clinton. That's a big sway for me as attorney of where I'm going to vote. Because people don't realize the Supreme Court is at stake for a generation now, with vacancies to be filled now and in the future. To me, that's a big deal. Also, I kind of like my presidents to not give away government secrets and expose top secret information. That's just me. I don't see Donald Trump doing that. I see Hillary Clinton doing it and lying about it. Despite what Director Comey said. That happened. I don't expect Donald Trump to leave soldiers under fire without support. I know Hillary Clinton's already done that as part of the Obama administration. I expect Donald Trump will not, well, let's pick another scandal here from Hillary Clinton. I mean, take your pick. Will not lie about being under sniper fire when traveling overseas. I know Hillary Clinton's already done that. It's proven to me that she's a liar. You could say that all politicians are liars, but how many of them are documented liars with an FBI file that says so? Donald Trump may shade the truth from me, but at least I know he doesn't have a criminal past. That's good enough for me. If we're talking about bad or worse, that's good enough for me to give me the vote. The Supreme Court being not as bad as Hillary, that pretty much cinches it for me. I'll be going with Donald Trump. And I'll be doing it knowing that his wife may have lifted a few lines from Michelle Obama's speech. We're talking about much ado about nothing. I don't understand the liberal media and the way this whole situation with Melania Trump has been covered. About lifting some lines from Michelle Obama's speech at a prior convention of her party. Does it look bad? Okay. Are you voting for Melania Trump? No. I mean, come on. She's not even on the ballot. She's not anything. She's supporting her husband. And if she was inspired by Michelle Obama and wanted to include a similar message, okay. Again, not a deal breaker for me. But you would think that an atom bomb had gone off at this convention that had sealed the fate of Donald Trump by his wife, who is not an elected official, who's never spoken politically in public and on a stage as big as the RNC, from doing something that in the grand scheme of things is absolutely so minimal politically. Come on now. Oh, I see the chat room's filling in the other scandals for me from Hillary Clinton. Thank you very much to Dano for doing that in the chat room. Whitewater, Watergate, cattle futures, FBI files, travel office billing files. The list goes on and on and on. Donald Trump went bankrupt a couple of times. There's your comparison. The other thing that gets me about Donald Trump and why I feel like I can get behind him is that whether you like Donald Trump or not, he has acted in the best interest of his business partners and his business entity. He's kept people employed as best as he could. That's an executive making executive decisions and being responsible for the people that he must be responsible to. He worked with both sides of the aisle because he had interests that he had to maintain. I can respect that, and as long as he does the same thing for me as the commander-in-chief and the chief executive of this country, looking out for the country's best interest, I'm all about that. I think that's the mark of a good executive, not a bad executive. Hillary Clinton has proven that she will go into business for herself before she goes into business for the nation. And you want to talk about proof of that? Think about the Clinton Foundation. Think about the rhetoric that Hillary Clinton has been giving women and the LGBT community about being so supportive of them and their rights, while taking millions of dollars into her foundation from nations that stone women, that kill people in the homosexual community. And she's lined her foundation's pockets. By the way, you want to talk about shadiness and dark money, the Clinton Foundation, those millions of dollars of outside influence, there's proof positive right there that she's not trustworthy and not putting America first. Come on, folks. It's time to get on board. It's time to line up behind Donald Trump because the alternative is a known liar, a known security threat who puts her own interests first before the nation's interests. I'm about to get ready to play our interview with Jason Beardsley who spoke at the RNC this week. But before I do that, I want to thank everybody again for tuning in to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene Berardelli. Russ Gallo, my normal co-host, is at his annual drill in Fort Drum, I believe it is, in the People's Republic of New York. We want to wish him all the best. First Sergeant Gallo doing his duty for our nation. We love you. We miss you. We can't wait to get you back because the show ain't the same without you, pal. But I want to thank everybody for listening to at least half of Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene Berardelli. And while I got you listening, check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. If you miss any part of this live broadcast on Spreaker, Tuesdays at 10 p.m., you can always check us out on one of our rebroadcast outlets, including WJHC 107.5 FM on the Florida-Georgia line, Red Nation Rising Radio. Check us out there on both the Liberty and Justice channels, K98 Talk, High Plains Talk Radio, and Sackheads Media, and the Internet's conservative radio network, ICRN. And believe it or not, folks, we got even more ways for you to tune in to us. If you miss any of those rebroadcasts, you can get us on demand anytime you want by checking us out at iTunes, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbay, Player FM, iHeartRadio. You can discover us on Google Play Music, and we are back on SoundCloud, folks. You can check us out there. Just do a search for Behind Enemy Lines Radio on SoundCloud. Great to be back on that platform as well. But for now, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, you're going to hear a little bit of Jason Beardsley's speech from the RNC, and then we'll get right into our interview with the CEO of the Underground Movement, combat veteran, expert in military intelligence and diplomacy security, Jason Beardsley. And after that, we'll talk a little bit more about the convention and a few extra thoughts as well. Gene Berardelli, Behind Enemy Lines. I'll be back right after these brief words. If you're a long-time listener of the show, or maybe this is your first time listening, you can probably tell that me and the gang here, we like to have our share of fun, whether it's on or off the air. We talk about 2-drink minimum radio and no medication Wednesdays or whatever day it may be. That's why when we found the people at Less Government, More Fun, we knew it was a match made in heaven with this show. Folks, we live in a time where government is out of hand. Our founding fathers did not intend government to be all-consuming in all parts of our lives. That's why we are telling you to go to lessgovmorefun.com, check out the website, check out the swag. What the people want is less government, more fun. Pass it on, make it happen.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save
your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org, brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines Radio is all about being right. No, seriously, it is. If you ever listen to Russ Gallo or me go back and forth on some issue, we always want to make sure that we remember who said what and when we said it. That's why we go to GoOnRecord.com. It's a brand new social media website. Challenge people on what they believe, whether it's in politics, sports, entertainment, finance, whatever. There's a category for you at GoOnRecord.com. Check it out right now. Tell us, what do you stand for? It's time for you to go on record.
Hi, this is Sheriff Sam Page of Rockingham County, North Carolina, and you're listening to Red Nation Rising Radio.
Behind Enemy Lines.
Gene Berardelli, back behind enemy lines. Before we welcome our guest to the show, let me give you a quick sample of what he said at the RNC this week.
As an elite soldier, I operated at times as the only American in the midst of our enemies. Still, no matter how dangerous the mission, I never lost my conviction that America was the world's best hope for good. This same conviction can sustain the nation when we find ourselves in peril. And this is such a time. From 9/11 to Russian aggression to a belligerent China into the evil of the Islamic State, we face unparalleled threats. But we stand here tonight on the shoulders of giants and legends who gave us this American Republic. And when we think of those who pioneered this country with courage and honor through a bloody revolution, and those who gave their lives for the cause of freedom around the world, today, at this crucial point in our history, can we summon the spirit that forged our nation and bound us together under principles of liberty and justice for all?
Joining me on the line right now, it's a pleasure to welcome back to the show our good friend. Last time we spoke to him was with Concerned Veterans for America. Now it's all about Jason Beardsley. Sir, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on today.
Oh, listen, it's all a pleasure to have you on. It's good to see you've gone big time, man. I saw you speaking at the RNC this week. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I found myself on stage in front of a podium with a microphone. I thought, well, let's go ahead and address the nation. No, it was a tremendous honor, and I was humbled to do it, and really honored to be on stage with some of America's greatest men and women. Dave Bellavia down there doing house-to-house fighting, Joni Ernst, Lieutenant Colonel, retired, and then Commander Zinke from SEAL Team 6. Of course, that was an honor, and the other 8 members there, Amber Smith, combat helicopter pilot. It was just an honor to do it.
Well, listen, for those of you who don't know who Jason is, first of all, you should. And of course, listeners to the show know who he is. Just, very quick background. Jason, I'm going to get the rank wrong, of course, like I always do, but I know that you have 22 years in with the Army and the Navy, background in military intelligence and diplomatic security. You've been all over the world, from Iraq to Africa to Gaza and the West Bank. Man, that's a lot of miles, man. Tell us how you developed into this basic, military badass, really, is what you are. Tell everybody how you started and how your career developed.
Oh, well, thank you. That's one of my favorite stories. I was a kid. I grew up, I thought what would be the most interesting job and the most fun I could have, and that was my heart. I wanted to jump out of planes, shoot things, blow things up. I wanted to be a commando, so I sought out to be the best I could. I loved the idea of challenge in the extreme. Started in the Navy and was really intent on being a SEAL, but really other plans, God had other plans for me, and I didn't make it through the program. I had a hernia, bilateral hernias at the time, so found myself in the fleet. And then I rechecked my head a little bit later, got some maturity, and went into the U.S. Army, joined the Green Berets, and trained for that, and loved it. Fell in love with the mission, the idea of going behind enemy lines and working with folks that in their own countries had the guts to take up their own fights, and then we would train with them, and from there I went into a Joint Special Operations Command where there was even more challenges and different opportunities to train and really kind of take a different role approach to the battlefield, one that was a lot more subtle, a lot more kind of soft-handed, and very much in my, we'll call it, mental heart space. So I loved every piece of it. I was very, very pleased and humbled to be allowed to kind of work in every one of those capacities. Marcus Luttrell said something last night that I feel the exact same way about. He said I want to thank you. He was thanking us as American people for letting him serve, and I feel that exact same compelling call. The United States allowed me to serve this great nation for 22 years, and then my role was to, one, do the best I could, and now to kind of pay that back in every way possible. So it's an exciting career. It's the one I wanted to do.
And the way that we got hooked up was we met at CPAC, and we were talking about veterans issues and the accountability project that you were part of with Concerned Veterans for America. And since you've moved on to bigger and better in politics, I'm sure that issue is very close to your heart as well, right?
Oh, absolutely, and it's a parallel fight, if you will, and I still advise for Concerned Veterans for America. On the road with them quite a bit. I'll be doing some events down in South Carolina and Florida, but we really do want to make sure we're holding elected officials accountable, and the only way we're going to do that is if we mobilize the populations that are most interested in veterans issues, and then we give them a channel to have their voice heard in the halls of Congress. That's been a really exciting thing. I've met some of the greatest people in this kind of industry. We'll call it legislation advocacy. I've met some of the greatest people that you could meet. Your Pete Hegseth, your Sean Parnells, heroes like Karen Vaughn, Amber Smith. These are American heroes, and working together with them, it's been an honor. So that's been part of the fight, and it's ongoing. I'm still part of that. And we've been doing some great things. I encourage everybody to check that out. It's CV4A.org, and just kind of come in and take a look and see what we're doing.
I love how Jason gets all the plugs in too. You're a total pro at this now, man. You're doing so great, and it turns out that on this path that you're traveling on, it brought you to participating on the main stage. As they say in Vegas, you're playing the big room at the RNC. Tell us how that happened.
It's remarkable. Knowing some of these people, you put a lot of work into being a good soldier. When the mission calls for a soldier to go out and do the work, you're standing in the breach ready to go. And so the people, I think, have a trust in you. And there was an occasion that came up that they were looking for a veteran that could fill a particular role, and had to also have the ability to kind of communicate the message that I think was part of the overall theme, Defense of America. And some of the people that I've, we'll call, bled it out or sweated it out in the trenches with, picked up the phone and said, is this something you'd be willing to do? And the answer for me is the same answer I pretty much give on any call to action, which is send me. Yes, if it's something that someone is relying on you for, I take that trust very seriously, and want to do my best to live up to it. So it was a wonderful thing, but it's a little bit of who you know, but it's also a lot of bleeding out together and pouring your heart out on stage after stage with different audiences, and making sure people really know, hey, you mean this. This is not fake. It's not some kind of a phony thing. And so that kind of trust gets you sometimes get you the call. So a very, very, very incredible story, and again, humbled to be there.
Well, the authenticity definitely came through in your remarks to the RNC, and I watched it before getting on the phone with you, and you did a tremendous, tremendous job, better the job than I would have ever done. And I find that the crowd is responding more to non-politicians on the stage. You mentioned Marcus Luttrell, yourself included. Tell me the mood that you're feeling at RNC, because a lot of the portrayal of it on mainstream media is chaotic, combative. What are you seeing?
It's so strange to see that from the inside. It looks very much different than what it looks like from the outside. The media perspective is, find what's bleeding, find what's tumultuous, and then focus on that. And a Secret Service guy made a great comment. He said the press and the protesters are codependents, and so they depend on each other to live. And what we saw is, I walked into the floor, and it's an incredible atmosphere. People are excited. The kerfuffle, if you will, that happens in there is small enough that it did not prevail, and it did not impact the overall mood. I thought by 7 o'clock, when I was seated at the VIP box with Bob Dole and Senator Dole, it was a great atmosphere, and there was no hostility. So when I come back and I watch the news reports, and you're seeing how this was a dramatic day, and everything was exploding, it just didn't appear that way from the ground in. And I talked with some folks over at the RNC too, who in the middle of a press person, if I named him, you would know exactly who he was, walked over and was very focused on the drama that he was anticipating that was going to happen in this fight. And I was looking at the RNC rep who was kind of looking at him like, yeah, of course, we're going to look for that, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. She was trying to kind of diffuse it but the press person was really interested in kind of building it up. We walked away, and the RNC person was very frank with me and just said, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Obviously, they've got their concerns. They're going to flesh them out, but they don't have the numbers and so on and so forth. And that's exactly what it was. It was a small little dramatic flair. The press focused on it, and I'm amazed at how much of the story today is about that. So very interesting to see it from the inside, and different than what it looks like, I think, from the press perspective.
All right. Well, listen, the one thing we definitely want to get the word out about is your new project, and I was on the website earlier. Of course, we're talking about the underground movement. Tell everybody what that is. It's really exciting stuff, and it's one of the coolest things I've seen in a while.
We love America, and my business partner and I, Special Forces, were Green Berets that knew that if our fights overseas, were for freedom and democracy in Iraq or Afghanistan or Africa, we didn't want to come home to America and lose the fight there for our culture, our history. Who is America? How did she become the greatest country in the world? What's happened in the past, 20, 30 years maybe, we've been dismissive of our heroes. We've been taking our legends and the stories of adventure that made this country great, from whether it was a Daniel Boone or Paul Revere's Midnight Ride, or George Washington as a revolutionary, Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. The great stories of men like the Flying Tigers or maybe the Tuskegee Airmen. Those are things that made this country exactly what it is. So we captured those, and we wanted to do it in a way that's competitive and brand-oriented. So you get your Abercrombie or your Hollister-like kid who just wants to wear great clothing, but we wanted to put a message to that clothing, and that message is this country is the greatest country in the history of the world, and here's how we got there. So we put the heroes and we put the stories on beautiful premium apparel, cut and sewn, a lot of it here in the Carolinas. We do a whole Carolina-made line of T-shirts and hats and hoodies that are just beautiful fabrics, and we tried to get the most premium material because we want the customers to have the best shirt in their locker, the best shirt in their closet, and then we wanted to pair that with very cool kind of updated aesthetics and graphics that spell out America's beautiful legacies. So that's what the underground movement is. We love to make sure that our heroes aren't forgotten, but we know it has to be sexy. We know it has to meet with the kids that are out there today, going to the clubs or hanging out. You don't necessarily want to wear that red, white, and blue, I love America flag and then run into your college campus, because it's just not that cool, as glorious as it is. We have to build it better, and that's what we're doing at the underground movement. That's our challenge.
It's a great. I'm actually browsing the site and looking to see what I want to buy while I'm listening. The George Washington shirt is just awesome. The Teddy Roosevelt Rough Rider shirt that I looked at before is great as well. Folks, www.tumshirts.com. Go there right now. Check that out. One last question before I let you go, Jason. And I appreciate you giving me all this time to talk while you're in Cleveland. Have you run into Donald Trump? Have you exchanged any words with him? And if so, what were your impressions? And even if not, what are your impressions of him and what's going on at the RNC?
Yeah, great question. Here, I have not. I have met him on a previous occasion, and my impression is, number one, he's a big man that lives big, but with that space that he occupies, what's remarkable is he's connective. He knows how to connect to people, even though he's kind of living larger than most people around him. And so it's this unique dichotomy, if you will, of a person that is kind of grandiose but able to kind of meet with you at the space you're in. And I think that's what happens when people get close to him. They see this personal connection. He gives that person his attention and kind of hears and listens and makes that person feel welcome. That's what I saw. Here at the convention, didn't get to necessarily run into him yet, but know that there's a lot of people that have and have kind of said something very similar. So that's something that's unique. And I'll tell you one other thing that I think your audience may appreciate. I got to go on stage with former SEAL Team 6 Commander Congressman Ryan Zinke from Montana, and what we talked about backstage is a piece that I don't think a lot of people hear. He's gotten to Congress and said, frankly, it's broken. This is a guy that has led his career kicking in doors and snapping up terrorists all over the world, who's inside Capitol Hill and saying this system that we can't get to work here. We can't do the work that the people have sent us to do. That's the reason he's supporting Donald Trump, is because there are obstacles in the way of good legislation and good people getting things done. And his view, this is a former SEAL Team 6 commander, his view is that a person like Donald Trump has got to kind of break the system down a little bit to let legislation, to refresh or reanimate the spirit of what we've elected our representatives to do. I thought that was something that made Donald Trump's kind of cause in general one that I think is very compelling, and not just for this generation, but for the people that are going to vote 2 and 3 elections down the road. Because what's happening in this election is the establishment is kind of breaking up, and it's leaving room for the market to weigh in, not just in this election, but in everyone after that. So for that reason, a lot of people have found that this is a movement that they are willing to really support, and I think that was something that is missed in the collective media, hype. So,
well, listen, I appreciate your perspective and coming on the show, folks. Check out again TUMshirts.com. Check out Jason on Twitter at Jason R. Beardsley. That's Beardsley. I gotta spell out the last names because Baradelli is hard to pronounce, pal. Jason, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate everything you're doing, and keep up the great work. We'll check in with you real soon.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. And anytime Behind Enemy Lines wants to go there, I'm ready to go there with you. So you have a great day, and shout out to all your audience. God bless America.
The show will be right back. But first, a word from Al Sharpton.
Good evening, Rev. Thanks
Good evening,
to
Rev.
you, Ed. Is this Groundhog Day 2? We are watching that was Attorney General Eric Holder, ABDs, about some Republicans at home are already beating the drums of war. Today, the Pentagon refuted that claim. And he said the American people do not want him to, quote, dwindling, they do not want him dwindling his thumbs. You can get a gig as a contortionist. Intravenous fluids and pills coated with gelatin. We don't leave our women or men in uniform behind. It's a monument to the hubris of Dick Cheney, Representative Raul Labrador. Years of abuse. I personally apologized to Mr. Peebles. Just ask to soon-to-be former Congressman. Democrats are outright jitty. CIA's counterterrorism center. Veteran Affairs Secretary Shinseki. Why do I always mess up his name? Shinseki. I love my critics. I have fun with that.
Politics Nation with the Reverend Al Sharpton starts right now. Good evening, Rev.
Good evening, Dr. Dyson.
But wait, there's more.
And we will much about that be committed. So there's no real conflict. Michael Druniak, including Lincoln himself, Daniel Day-Lewis. Behind Monica Lewinsky, the one and only Trey Songz is here. But Allison Lundergan Grimes, Gina De Jesus, when Gina De Jesus, Tea Party challenger Matt Bivens. People don't want to have their Social Security overall. The Republican savior, Mark Rubio's big night. In evolution and Galileo, this whole thing of Galileo, America's changed. Unless IT and Skillets, President Putin doing something similar back in, it won't change this fundamental fact about the GOP. Just how absurd these attacks is. Nearly 6 months after the dangerous traffic jam, the Thai military says, my friend for many years, Ilyana Van Zandt. There's nothing there.
And they gave this guy a TV show? Let's get back to our show.
Gene Baradelli, back behind any lines. Want to thank our buddy Jason Beardsley for coming on the show. Check out, oh my goodness, all the plugs. Check him out on Twitter at Jason R. Beardsley. That's with L-E-Y at the end. Jason R. Beardsley. Check out the Underground Movement at www.tumshirts.com. And of course, check out our friends at Concerned Veterans for America, cv4a.org. Whole lot of stuff going on with Jason Beardsley. I put into social media while the interview was playing how I believe he is a rising star in politics. And Jason was right out there tweeting with me that he's just a Winter Soldier and thank you for the love and support. And we definitely, he's one of the good guys, folks, on the show, and we always love having him on. And we'll definitely have him on again in the near future. Going to transition a little bit from RNC just for a second, because I think we need to acknowledge how do I put this the right way? We need to acknowledge that there is a force working against all of us for the sake of a quote-unquote movement to bring awareness to violence against minorities called Black Lives Matter. And this week there was another shooting, an execution-style shooting in Kansas City, Kansas, of a captain of their police force. And again, I'm not seeing anyone take responsibility for the actions of the Black Lives Matter movement for what has happened here. And yes, Don Lemon can go on CNN and be their apologist as much as they want, talking about how they are preaching a message of peace. But this is the same organization that did not speak out when protesters in the People's Republic of New York City were chanting, "What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want it? Now." They did not speak up in Ferguson when the video got out of people singing made-up Christmas carols, talking about decking the halls with rows of dead cops. I'm not making this up, folks. It's on Twitter. And not only on Twitter, it's on YouTube. You can see the videos. You can hear the chants for yourself. But just going on TV and saying, well, we denounced that, so you can't talk to us about that, is a bunch of bull. For months now, even almost a year, I would say, probably over a year, if you really think about it, this movement has been at the forefront of creating an anti-police sentiment. What did you think was going to happen when you're out there chanting, "What do we want? Dead cops"? Did you think that nobody was going to try to harm a police officer? Did you think that people wouldn't actually take that message to heart and act on it? How irresponsible is that to say, well, we're a movement of peace and we don't believe in violence and it's not one of our people doing it, yet still incite people to do it? Come on, everybody. We need to get real about this topic. Last week I talked about this topic and I was tiptoeing around and trying to use words carefully to not come out and sound like a belligerent, ignorant person. But if your anger, and I don't care what color you are, if your anger isn't up about the black lives that also wear blue, that apparently don't matter, if your anger isn't up about the loss of a public servant, no matter what color they are, just as much as your anger should be up when someone else is killed by a police officer by accident or for whatever motive there may be or may come out to, then folks, you're not doing life right. Yes, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter too, Yellow Lives Matter, Brown Lives Matter, whatever color's out there, those lives matter too. Everyone matters. That's why we have a set of rules that talk about equal protection under the law. That's why we have a set of laws and decisions talking about how classes of people that have been disadvantaged need protection. Classes of people should not be discriminated against, no matter what the classes are, and especially race should not be discriminated against by government. Government is out there, forget about government being out there. People are out there trying to rein this in. And if you're a peaceful protester that is out there and interacting with the police and, hugging your fellow man out there, I believe in your right to protest 110%. You deserve to be out there. You're American. Your voice should be heard. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. But if you're one of those people out there chanting for the death of another human being because they wear a uniform, you're part of the problem. And if you're one of those people leading a movement that has people chanting for the death of a fellow human being because they wear a uniform, and you don't speak up about it timely, you're part of the problem too. Had to get it off my chest, folks. Sorry to go off topic, but when I see these things and I see rhetoric about, it's really gun violence that we should be talking about, or it's some other topic other than, what is going on at hand, it gets me angry. It gets me frustrated. And I know because you're listening to this show, it does the same to you. I hope that you join me in these sentiments, and I hope you join me in these feelings. You know what, folks? We're getting close to being out of time, so we just have time for one final thought. And I just want to bring this around full circle. Because we talked about a couple of different things. We talked about the RNC. We had some fun with Jason Beardsley. And all that, the behind-the-scenes stuff. The story about Ryan Zinke and what he said about a cleansing fire happening in the Republican Party kind of brings it around full circle to what I want to talk about here at the end. In politics, and as in life, there needs to be a renewal. A renewal of values, a reevaluation of your life, all these things. In your personal life, you reevaluate your personal situations, your job situations, your dating situations, your dieting habits. Everything gets reevaluated and change is made accordingly. In your professional life, you evaluate what vendors to use, where to cut costs, who to hire, who to fire, who to give a raise to, who to take on as a client, a whole bunch of different things. Government has not had that reevaluation process, especially party politics, in a very, very long time. I dare say in a generation. There has not been that infusion of new ideas. There's not been that cleansing fire of telling people, you've done your job and you haven't done it as well as you can. Now it's our turn to take control. Donald Trump may indeed be that cleansing fire that the GOP needs, win or lose. If he wins, he does things his way for a while because he proved that it worked, and hopefully the conservative movement gains some benefit from having Donald Trump as president. If he doesn't win, then Republicans are going to have to look into themselves and see why he lost, and if it's because of a fractured party with fractured ideals and a platform that doesn't represent everyone and the best interests of the conservative movement and the big tent that goes along with it, then you know what? It's time to burn it down and start over again. It's time to look in that mirror. And because we have this convention going on, it's the perfect time to look in that mirror. It's time to look at who we are as a party. And if you don't want to be a part of this party, or if you think the party's going in the wrong direction, then don't leave the party. Stay involved, stay active, keep your voice within. I saw people doing a hashtag saying that currently without party, CWP, because they don't agree with what's going on with Republican politics. And they think the best solution is to leave. No. Interact with your fellow Republicans and conservatives and your big tent. Exchange those ideas. Get people involved that agree with you. And if there are more of you than there are of them, you win. Right now, Donald Trump proved that there are more people that support him than don't. And that's why he won. And if you're one of the people that feel like you lost, and you don't like that feeling anymore, don't fold up your tent and leave. Mount up, gather up, start getting your own people together, get your own movement going, and maybe you'll win next time. Politics is not a sport for spectators. Don't put yourself on the sidelines just because you lost a round. And let's not bash fellow conservatives anymore. It's time to unite as a party. It's time to get together for that big win. And if we don't get that big win, there'll be another win down the road, hopefully for the hearts and minds of the party. And that's my final thought. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. I want to thank Jason Beardsley for coming on the show. I want to thank everybody in the chat room for coming on the show. But for now, Gene Baradelli behind enemy lines from the People's Republic of New York City. We are out of here. Good night, folks. See you next week.
Our position's been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. A Rock Radio production. Copyright 2016. Back in 7 days. Out.